Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid, and today we're going to start taking a closer look at what to expect from the new Badger offense in 2025 and taking a deeper dive into the core tenets of Jeff Grimes' offensive philosophy and how that applies to Wisconsin football. And today we're going to start with probably the most basic of those core tenets, and that is the wide zone, a blocking scheme that is quite popular at the next level of football. Obviously, any coach who comes from the Shanahan tree, going all the way back to Mike Shanahan, has a variation of the wide zone as a core blocking scheme within their system. So today we are going to take a look at the scheme and how we're going to apply it to Wisconsin football. All right, so here we are in the Dairy Ray classroom, and we are going to break down this blocking scheme. But first, we're going to talk about a question that I get a lot when it comes to the scheme, and that is, what is the difference between the outside zone and the wide zone? And for me, and the way that I teach it, it really comes down to what the overall kind of, I guess, goal of the scheme is. What are they trying to set up and how they go about getting there? Where you're going to see that from the outside they look very similar, but when it comes down to the actual operation of the schemes, they end up being quite different. So let's talk about, we'll go with the outside zone first. So first things first, where the differences come from is the aiming point. And for outside zone, the aiming point is usually at or outside of the tight end. And we're looking to work outside and then looking for a cutback. And where the cutback comes from is the offensive line, or all the blockers are looking to gain depth and then work to get around the outside shoulder of the defender they're blocking and working for a hook block, essentially. And in doing so, they're looking to create alleys around the outside shoulder of that defender. And by doing so, we're either going to just run through and climb up field, or if we get a situation where we can't get that guy turned, that's where we hit a cutback. And the cutbacks in outside zone are a lot more severe because of the angles of the attack from the running back to start with. So when you're aiming outside of the box, even a cut straight up field can get very harsh and very tight. And then that's where you end up getting even deeper cuts going backside. So we're going to see this a lot on the front side. Backside, they're thinking about cutoff. So they're just trying to basically wall off these defenders on the backside and create the cutback lanes vertically. And you're going to see a lot of cut blocks on these end man in the line of scrimmage and a lot of wall offs here. So again, we're working to the sideline, and then we're looking to wall off these defenders from their outside shoulder and turning them back in. Now, when it comes to the wide zone, the aiming point's a little shallower, a little tighter, a little more upfield. Okay, some will be working at the tackle, inside the tackle. Some will consider wide zone inside the tight end. It's all subject to your own interpretation. But what we're looking for in terms of the blocking scheme is more what I like to teach with my outside zone as well as with the wide zone, is we are not going to let the defensive alignment force us into bad blocking. or force us into lose-lose situations. So what I mean by that, in a situation like we have drawn up here, we have the defensive tackle is lined up in a four-eye technique inside shade of the tackle. For a guard, especially at the collegiate level, that is a long way to work to get to his outside shoulder. And even with a bucket step, that's a long way for him to work. So you have to gain a lot of depth to be able to get a good angle to work to get to his outside shoulder. And when you're letting these defensive linemen get in that much space, their tendency is just to come upfield. So that's going to make it even harder to set the blocks. So what you are going to see in situations like this is instead of gaining a lot of depth, we're going to be telling this guard, just start running. Just start running for width and try, we're still maybe aiming for that outside shoulder, but what we're going to end up most likely doing is catching the near shoulder of this defensive tackle. Now, if we hit him with some good momentum and displace him, we can just take him and we can carry him upfield. And we can hit a lot of the same ideas of the outside zone, but we are putting ourselves in a situation where we make it a little bit easier, where instead of working to set the lane working from his inside to his outside, we're going on his inside and we're setting it from his inside. And we're just running to displace. And if he wants to hang on the line of scrimmage, that's fine. If we can't get him turned upfield, then we're just going to wall him off. And that is where the run reads change in this scheme. So in a setup like this, we could get a block here by the guard. It ends up basically essentially being a kick out. We could work the tight end. He could be working outside to get upfield. And we could get a similar block here from the tackle. And then what we're going to get set up here on the front side is our running back is going to be working for a whip to set up the defense, but then instead of cutting back, he's just going to put his foot in the ground and get vertical. And that is a key difference. We're not working backwards. We're working to set up a wall and create an alley behind it for the ball carrier to get vertical through. It is a lot more downhill than you would expect with a scheme that is called wide zone, similar to outside zone. I mean, there is the misnomer in the terminology, but what we are doing here, though, is we are forcing the defense to basically work sideline to sideline, because if these guys anchor down to try to avoid being walled off, what's going to end up happening is they're going to get stalemated, and then the ball carrier can bounce it to the sideline. And especially when you get into a nub set here where there's a lot of open space, wide zone is very popular to run to the weak side of formations. So that's what we're looking to do on the front side. On the back side, we're working to get these guys running, but we want to stop their momentum and essentially create a backside cutoff like we would see in outside zone. So what this will do is we create a wall and we create an alley, and then we hit the ball inside. So when we go take a look at the film later, I want you to see how wide these guys work, but the angle at which they hit the line of scrimmage. Almost always they're hitting it upfield. And maybe they'll bounce back, but a lot of times what you'll see is they'll hit here and they'll work and they'll pick up one of these second level blockers, and then they can keep climbing upfield. All right? So that's the difference between the wide zone and the outside zone, and a brief introduction into the scheme behind the wide zone. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the film and we're going to take a look at both examples of this scheme being run at Baylor back in 2023 and with Kansas this most recent season. I want to look at these and look at the differences and the subtleties of the blocking scheme, and also how the backs move. because one thing I really like about what I'm hearing from Jeff Grimes is his willingness to collaborate with other coaches on the coaching staff. And that's refreshing coming from a system coach who maybe didn't quite trust everybody around him. And you get that with system coaches. They're 50-50. They're either going to love to work with the staff or they are like, this is my stuff. I'm going to work. I got this. And we all saw what happened with that. But Grimes seems to be a lot more collaborative in his mindset. So take a look at how they run things differently at Kansas and at Baylor. But we're going to start with Baylor. Hey everyone, Ryan here from the future, and getting down to doing the editing for this video, and it looks like my Kansas footage has been corrupted, and this video is already very delayed getting out to you guys. So instead of getting down and re-recording this and delaying the release of this video another day, we are just going to call it with the Baylor film here. So you're going to see the Baylor film and the outro here, and that's what it's going to have to be. I think we've got plenty of film footage for you guys to get a sense of what's going on with the wide zone. So here we are with Baylor. All right, here we are in the film. Let's take a look. And we're starting with Baylor in 2023. Baylor ran the wide zone at about a 50% clip. If you could look in comparison to the other blocking schemes, they ran inside zone, power, counter, etc., all combined for about another 50%. So this is the core of their run scheme. Baylor ran a pretty good variation of formations. You saw everything from 10 personnel to 13 personnel, so a lot of different looks. I've got 9 clips here, and we're just trying to look at seeing how these blocks are set up. So here we go. This is against Utah, coming out of a pistol look, and they are in a little condensed. You can't see it over here, but this is the tight end on the short side of the field. So they're going to be running to the field. And so there we go. This is just what we were talking about. All right, so first thing first, before we get deep in this, if any of you have sensory issues when it comes to watching film being rewound back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, I apologize. Unfortunately, this is what I learned as a player, and I'm going to do my best to not rewind so fast. I might go a little slower or at least take it farther back in these clips so it doesn't get as jarring. All right, so here we go. So right off the bat, the first step we're noticing with all these offensive line, this is actually a great spot that I paused it here, is you can see aiming points and you can see the angle of their footwork. So they're just opening up their play side foot, they're gaining whip, and they're looking to get their backside foot back through as they're aiming to their block. All right, so we can also see here, we can see where our eyes are and where the combos are being set up. So if we work from the backside forward, okay, we're looking here, the left guard, he's looking to get to the outside, the outside shoulder of the defensive tackle. Our left tackle is working right here. Got the same kind of combo here, working outside, working inside, and then we're going to look to wall off here. So as this gets set up, let's look to see how they are attacking these defenders. So let's get into it. So there we go. So already, if we look here at the front side, we're working to work around and to almost create a slingshot so our right guard can climb to number 3, the inside linebacker, and our center is working to wall off the defensive tackle. And that's where the hit is going to take. So we can see right here, aiming point of the running back looks like we're coming basically downhill to tackle. And then we're going to look to find our cut, most likely right in here, based off of just how we got the alignment here of the defensive end. So he's playing out. We're still going to read it very similar to how I teach. We're going to read outside in. So we're going to read the number 2 man from the inside out. So that would be right here, defensive end. That's our first read. and then our second read's right here. So we come out for the running back, we hit it, we already have him work wide. So he's already, you can already see his eyes are coming back inside. And then we're looking for our second block here, and we're going to get our wall right in here, and that's where we're going to bang it, right there. And if we look on the backside, our backside guard, he's working a cross face. He's trying to get around because we don't want to wall off a backside defender. We're looking to climb him. So if we almost want to see it, the front half here is wide zone. The back half is outside zone. And then this gives our backside tackle the clearance to just climb straight up field. So we get a wall here. And we're creating the backside wall here. And then we got blockers coming up to the second level. And that's how we hit. Now, we want to nitpick here a little bit. Maybe running back just keeps going forward instead of looking to cut back more. There might be more space here. But great burst. So you see, it's just getting the foot in the ground right there and getting vertical and just climbing upfield as we go. So let's take a look at this one more time. Work out, set the edge. Okay, let those defenders outrun themselves. Put the foot in the ground and get vertical. That's what we're looking to hit right there. All right, so let's take a look here at the next play. All right, next up here, we're still against Utah. Pistol look. Going to be running to the short side of the field, running to the tight end, H-back, or whatever we want to call this slot here. And let's see how we do it. So again, aiming point, working to the tackle. Notice we're playing a little bit more what we call smart splits here. And what smart splits do is it allows us to make it easier for these linemen to get into their double teams and through their zone. So what I mean by that. So this tackle here, he knows he's got this guy one-on-one on his own. So he's going to widen a little bit more to create more space and artificially create that gap right there. We're going to get in here. We see we got a little bit tighter splits on these backside defenders because they're working at tighter angles. They have to go farther and they have to get these combos. So that's why we're seeing them having different splits all over the field. Smart splits used all over the football world. All right, so here we go. We're going to hit it. And again, same thing. We're working wide, and we're going to bang it right behind the center. That's our initial read, because what we have here is our play side guard. He's working outside, but he wants to climb. Based on this alignment, he wants to be the guy who gets to number 20. This is a really tough angle for the center to get to the inside linebacker. So he's working to dip his inside shoulder, get to the outside, and then work upfield and then wall him off. And then so we just get the running back, puts his foot in the ground, and just lets the defense out. We look at this here, and look how much Utah's defense runs themselves out of the play. And our running back just cuts straight upfield right behind everybody. And who ends up getting this is the backside defensive end. And we actually get a pretty good job by the play side end to work around this outside block. We able to get that tackle's hands down. And I'm sorry, I'm getting jumpy. But the rest of the defense, we'll say it, these blocks inside are not perfect, are not, not that great. They can't get, they can't really control here. But the defense allows themselves to be outrun. And we're able to bang it upfield and get an okay game. So that's another thing about this scheme is it forces the defense to defend the entire field. And in doing so, you give them a sense of urgency that they have to run and defend the entire field, which is harder than it looks. All right, let's move on. Still against Utah. All right, so they're going to condense their formation, bring in an H. Okay, so now we're going to get split flow. And one thing about split flow that you're going to see, and we'll go back here to the top. All right, so we've got our scheme. We're working here, here, and here. And we've got our split flow coming back this way. The way that Grimes and his offensive line coaches in the past have seen this is the split flow, jet sweep, whatever they have coming back this way, he is going to be responsible for 1.5 men on the backside of the defense. And how do we get a half a man? One, there's going to be the guy who he's going to end up blocking, but then there's also going to be the guy he ends up influencing that helps us set up more blocks on the front side. So we're going to take a look at this tight end H-back here as he comes across first, and then we'll get into the rest of the scheme. So when he comes across, already that's causing this guy right here to anchor down because he needs to control the flat. Because if there's any kind of play action coming off of this, and because he's delayed, he's not there to squeeze. We saw this guy or a similar position guy squeeze on the last play and chase it down, but because we get split flow, he has to respect that and stay back there. All right, so let's look at the front half. Now, Utah reacts a little bit with the motion, and they're expecting it to come outside, but we end up getting 3 defenders sitting out here on the wide half of the field, and they have to play from the outside in. And again, Baylor just works, shoulder, walls off, and creates a cutback. And again, it's not a cut back, it's a cut up. And we can see how wide he actually ends up getting on this. You know, right now the ball is just inside the hash. He gets vertical. That's about 2 yards outside the hash. So he's really not that wide. He's no wider than the guard on this by the time he actually gets going upfield. But we see Utah is just running around the shoulders of the front side blockers and taking themselves out of the play. And then we actually get a pretty good job there. Number 34, slot receiver, I'm guessing. That's actually a really good job climbing across the formation and blocking that safety. And it helps us create a cutback lane at the next level. So we get the split flow action to hold the backside defenders. You might think it causes us to be outnumbered on the front side, but we allow these defenders to just run themselves out of the play and set themselves up for problems. All right, so let's move on to the next play. All right, next up, we got the Bears against Central Florida. I apologize for the visually triggered crowd. Shaky cam, but these are some good examples of Baylor running their wide zone out of the sidecar alignment, which is something that it changes the footwork, but the aiming point and the decision making needs to be the same. So he's here in the sidecar alignment. He is still looking to make his cut when he gets to about the guard. So he needs to get across the formation as quickly as he can, get into the mesh, and he's got 3 steps to make his decision before he gets vertical. All right, so let's take a look here, and that's exactly what we get. So we get out, he works out to the guard. They're working his defender wider. He starts here in a 2-eye. He's trying to work across and just kind of turn his back to the double team, but the center ends up doing a pretty good job here helping and slingshotting. So he's helping push the defensive tackle out to the guard, and that allows him to then turn back and look back and seal off on the backside. This is actually a pretty solid center in this scheme, and that allows our running back to just stay on track and just keep going vertical. So just following the track, setting up the blocks, and going from there. All right, next up, back in pistol, and we've got a little bit wider surface now, so we're in 12 personnel. I think we might even have another guy out here. I know there's a defender there at least, but we've got 7 across the line here with the 2 tight ends. Okay, so that's not going to change much in terms of blocking scheme or anything like that, but it's going to change how the defense aligns. So as we can see, Central Florida is a lot wider. So they're playing with one single linebacker down the middle. They're looking more like a tight front here. All right, so we're working. Now here, the running back kind of second guesses himself a little bit, maybe getting a little bit too antsy in his read. So we're looking out here at the guard. Guard is uncovered. Tackle has got a 4-eye again. So tackle is going to work to run outside. 4-eye is working to cross his face and disrupt, so he can't climb here. But our guard is working out, and then he is going to set the displacement and going to wall off their defensive end. The center here has got a nose. He's working across. Backside guard was looking to help, but he doesn't want to kick out. So he is going to let the center work across to get to his play side shoulder. And then our left guard is just going to climb upfield and then hit right there. I think if our running back stayed on track a little bit longer, because to me, this is not a read. First read is set here. My guy's out. I'm in. And so I should be hitting here. This really isn't sold yet, so that's why he gets that little bit of a pitter-patter. But that being said, he does a really good job of having vision and bouncing it outside. So that ends up being pretty good after what was initially maybe a poor read. But nice feet climbing to the second level. All right, next up, again, we've got Central Florida. We're going to switch the back. Or sorry, the tight end. So again, we're going to have that same even front. Working across. Okay, Central does a little bit better job stretching it out here. But what kills them is our middle linebacker, number 0. He ignores one of the basic tenets of defensive play, and that is track the shoulder you got. And what helps with setting up the wide zone is he should be tracking the inside shoulder of the running back. And what ends up happening is he outruns and he gets to his outside shoulder. What that then creates is an ability for the running back to get to his point of attack, put his foot in the ground, and go vertical. And when a ball carrier makes one step, a defender always makes at least 2. And so by the time the middle linebacker realizes he's outrun it, our ball carrier has already snuck past. And again, defensive line-wise, they've done an okay job here stretching things out, but because they didn't pick up the second level clearly enough, there still creates room for a cutback. So again, we're walling off on the front side, back side. I think we had a little bit of a miscommunication here where this guard should have stuck here a little bit longer, or they could have worked a full block to get around. That's a long way to expect that left tackle to go get a linebacker to get to this 2 technique. That's a long way to run, but it ends up being fine. Running back just has to run through an arm tackle. All right, so moving on. Next up, we have Baylor against Houston. Houston in a 4th down look. They're reacting to the motion. So we're getting motion and split flow. And again, we use the motion and the split flow to occupy more than one blocker. So let's look at the jet motion first. The jet motion widens the 2 inside linebackers. They both step over and they're moving laterally on the snap. They're setting themselves up to be walled off on the second level. The split flow is creating the wall on the backside. So essentially what we're getting is student body right. The entire offensive line and this tight end are essentially in the run, displace, and wall off mode, where everybody here is just working to run their defender outside, wall them off, and then we get our H coming across, and he is going to just get into this end, pop him, and that creates the wall. And actually, he ends up, because this defensive end squeezes so hard, he just puts his hand in his shoulder and just continues to run him where he wants to go. And our ball carrier cuts behind it. All right, so the eye candy, this is a situation where eye candy serves a purpose without really doing much. And again, we could see how much the Houston defense has to respect it and react. And this is a situation where 3 guys can wall off the entire defense. All right, next up, again against Houston, sidecar alignment again. Okay, we're going to get a little bit of a change of play here, so let's just move it forward a little bit so we don't want to wait too long. Okay, we're going to be running to the tight end. Okay, and here he gets one step past the center and he looks to cut already. Now, this to me is a situation, it's probably because he sees we're getting beat here. And he is not confident enough to stick it right in there. We're getting pushed back a little bit here at the center position. So the cut is there, but it hits too fast for the right guard, or excuse me, yes, the right guard to climb and get to that linebacker cleanly. In fact, he came very close to getting a face mask penalty on that. But again, movement of the offense forces the defense to work wide. We put our foot in the ground and we get vertical. It ain't clean, but it just shows us, as we've seen so far, we've had plays hit from this hash mark all the way to the sideline, and we've had plays hit one step past the center and getting vertical. So it all depends on how the defense fills, reacts, and how the offense sets up the blocks as we go through. All right. So that's the wide zone. That, in a nutshell, what we're going to need from the Badgers offensive line for this to work is speed, aggression, but more importantly, decisiveness when it comes to our blocking. We know where we need to go. We need to trust our footwork. And when we get to the target, we have to finish the block. We can't be in a situation where we don't know where we're going or who we're going to block when we get there. We have to be decisive. The wide zone is a play that forces defenses to defend the entire field. And as long as you have a running back who knows how to put their foot in the ground and get vertical, it can be very, very effective as a catch-all kind of blocking scheme. We can change backfield actions as well and add a lot to this. We're not even talking about RPOs and zone reads and stuff off of this, which are certainly there. So looking forward to seeing how the Badgers implement this in 2025. I think the backs we have with Darian Dupree, Dylan Jones, and Katie Akameli are going to fit in quite well running this scheme. But we'll have to see. That's it for today. Next time, we're going to come out and we're going to take a look at the next basic tenet of Jeff Grimes' offense, and that is his interpretation of the vertical passing game. How does an offensive line coach view the vertical passing game in a run-first offense? We'll take a look at that. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.